know you had a story you wanted to share from this last week where you feel like you did it
Yeah.
right and you succeeded. I'm going to transition to you and let you share that story.
Yeah. So it was a success story we shared with Jeff in our private session, and uh, our youngest daughter can be very volatile, very you know, things will just set her off at home. Not, at school she's wears a different face, of course, and but she I don't even remember exactly what but she screamed and yelled at me, swore at me, slammed the door. What
You
was
were
it
you
about?
were you were brushing her hair or something like that, and like you accidentally pulled a couple
Oh,
strands, and it caused like a
oh, that's right. Like I had like something on my hands are kind of dry, so a piece of my skin like pulled one strand of her hair, and she's like bleep 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 bleep, and before I would have lost my mind. I would have said, "How dare you speak to me that way? That's so disrespectful. Do your own hair. I can't believe this. I'm not going to be any part of this." And I would have stormed out, and that was that. And I kind of stopped as she was, going off, and I said, "I'm really sorry. That was not intentional." And she wasn't having any of it, right? And I said, "Okay, I'll give you your space." And I walked out and I closed the door calmly. Not Didn't get heated or hot or anything. And then I went back to the living room, and Don had heard her yelling and swearing and slamming doors and things. So he normally would have like popped up like a cork and ran in there and threatened and yelled and screamed, gone off at her, right? And I was like, no, 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 like just leave it. And so we sat there for a minute, and then I thought, well, I wonder if it's been long enough. I'll go back and say, to try to repair, right? So I went back in and I said,
there was probably what 5-10 minutes later.
5, 10 minutes later, and I said, honey, I'm sorry. It wasn't intentional. I didn't mean to pull your hair, and I am sorry. I don't like it when you speak to me that way. Do you want me to finish doing your hair? Whatever. She's like, get out, leave me alone. I hate you, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, fair enough. So I left again. And then I waited a little even longer. And then I went back in, and she was kind of already under her covers, kind of like back facing the door as I came in, and I could tell she was upset. And I just sat down. Oh, no, I asked permission first. I said, may I come in? And she sort of mumbled something. It was not a no, heck no, get out, but it was mumbly. And then I said, may I sit down on your bed? And she mumbled again, and I said, look, I think there's something else going on. Like, I know you didn't mean to pop off at me like that. Like, I know that that's not you, and there must be something going on. Like, what's up? Like, just like Jeff says, what's up? And but it felt authentic, because in the past when I've tried to use like certain phrases or something, it just didn't feel quite like my voice. But this time I was like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? What's bothering you? And she started to sort of mumble a little bit, and then all of a sudden she just like, well, this happened at school and that happened, my best friends and my only group of friends that I have, and they excluded me, and they da, 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 and they all dressed the same, and they didn't include me, and I wasn't part of it, and I have no friends and nothing. And she started sobbing, and she's like, my life is terrible, I have no friends, nobody likes me, and I can't figure out why. And she was just hysterically crying. And I realized in that moment that, it was something else. It wasn't me. She wasn't coming after me. She wasn't, angry at me. And, normally I would have been triggered by that. And just taking a different approach allowed me to hear her and to really get that connection. And then she turned around actually to face me, and she kind of like curled up in a ball, like almost in a fetal position for me to like hold her, and I didn't offer any explanations or um, any, what do you call it, advice. I didn't do any of that, which I normally might have. You know, I would have said, "Oh, who cares? You know, they're just mean. You don't need friends like that," whatever. I might have said something like that in the past, and I just didn't. I said, "Oh, that's awful." I said, "That is so that is so sad. That would make anybody sad. That is just a terrible way to be treated. And I'm so sorry that happened to you." And I just empathized and just held her and loved her. And eventually, you know, she calmed down and then she asked me to pray for her. And but it was just like it was such a different approach, I think, to what how I might have handled things in the past. And just to see, you know, that there was really pain and hurt and suffering beneath that outburst of venom, you know, coming right at me. And yeah, it was pretty cool. And I went back into, you know, she said good night, and I went back into the room, and I was like, you know, I was like, you know, what happened? But it was, you know, it was pretty cool. So yeah,
So,
wanted to
so how did mom feel at the end of that versus how mom used to feel when she got upset and hurt by,
Oh yeah, complete like a 180. You know, I would feel so defeated and deflated, and I would be feel guilty and angry at myself for, you know, getting angry because I'm, you know, uh, uh, my MO is to not get angry. So when I do get mad because I'm being attacked, like that just makes me feel even worse. And then I feel like a failure as a mother and all the things, right? So yeah, I felt great. I was like, "Ooh, I did it."